The headlines are filled with the news of Christians who've been attacked, especially these mass shootings in Colorado, Wisconsin, Iowa, Texas, Tennessee, Minnesota. In truth, the violence has been up over 700% since 2018, and in the last 12 months alone, there's been over 400 attacks. And it's hard not to get overwhelmed with this sense of fear or dread about the unknown and what's going to happen next. Well, 1 Peter continues to give us hope. We've already talked about the idea that he's the apostle of hope. He's trying to write a church in the midst of their own set of persecution. But really, verses 3 through 12 of chapter 1 set this stage that there is purpose in the trials that we face. The world is intending these things for evil, but God is going to intend it, and he's going to use it for good. So this is the beginning to unlock our ministry of hope. Now, the cool part about this is that Peter presents this idea of our ministry of hope through the framework of the Trinity. I just think it's a cool sideline, something to look at later. You might want to kind of investigate that on your own. But here's what he really says. In verse 3, he talks about our living hope given to us by God the Father. And this is the inheritance that God has given us that is unblemished. It's unending. It cannot be destroyed by the trials that we face. In verse 8, he talks about our loving hope, and this is grounded in God the Son. Jesus, who suffered and died, was crucified and raised on the third day. This is the core of what gives us hope, is residing in that love of Jesus Christ. And then we talk in verse 11 about our longing hope. And this is really the witness of the Spirit to our spirit that we have been empowered to take this message from the Father, given to us by the Son, and use it to bless those people around us. This longing we have for freedom is the very core of the message of hope we give to the world. So we can overcome these trials. And this is where Peter does another cool thing. He doesn't just leave it as this theological framework that's in the abstract. He points to the past and says, hey, look, if you see the prophets in the Old Testament, they were proclaiming the good news that God was going to give them a kingdom, that he was going to establish this, and they would someday see a Messiah who would save them from their own trials. Yet they never got to experience that. And Peter's point here is that, hey, look, church, you here in Rome, this is the blessing you've received because you've had the opportunity to live in a time after the Messiah has come. But still, many are new Christians. Many had never seen Jesus. And so they are suffering their own set of trials. Now, new persecution, new isolation from communities, and even coming from Rome itself. And they're still proclaiming this good news. Well, their faithfulness now is the blessing to us. Here we are 2,000 years later, and we're going through our own longings, our own struggles to overcome. And so this is now our hope to look back at the early church, the time of Peter, and we can say, man, if they can get through these trials, we can get through these trials. And maybe we can be a blessing to the next generation who will persevere in the midst of difficulties because of our faithfulness. I think there's no better example of this than what we saw recently with Erica Kirk. She's at this memorial where millions and millions of people see her, and she says to the young man who assassinated her husband just a week earlier, she says, I forgive you. And that was a powerful moment, so much so it reached a lot of people. Tim Allen, most famously, I saw this and was just really moved as well, because he said, look, my father was killed by a man 60 years ago. And for 60 years, I've held on to that anger at this guy. And seeing her example gave him the ability to offer forgiveness as well. Again, that is the example of our ministry of hope. This is what it means to be followers of Jesus and carry on this legacy and this opportunity in the midst of whatever trials you're facing. So wherever you're at, whether it be personal issues or family isolation or actual persecution, stand firm in this hope of Jesus Christ, and you will be blessed by God to be a blessing to others.